Welcome to Tea Talks, where young adult stories and church experience blend into a beautiful insight to inspire us. So grab your cup of tea, sit down, relax as we spill the tea. With me today, I have my new friend Danny. Danny, thank you so much for joining us.
No problem. Thank you, Chris.
Well, so let's start getting to know you a little better. Why don't you share with us who you are?
Okay. My name is Danny Collins. I was raised a Christian, went to Christian schools. I felt a calling to be a teacher, to be a middle school teacher, because I wanted for kids to feel like the church was a place for them, right? So I went through school and graduated in 2016, December 2016. And then I had the opportunity to come in halfway through a school year, and I moved to South Carolina. I was there until 2019, where I moved to North Carolina, and I've been there ever since.
Awesome, awesome. So the series is about, basically I'm inspiring this series on this book here called Growing Young.
Yeah.
This is a book where they did a research. This is from Fuller Institution, and because we are losing a great number of young adults. Yeah. And they were, instead of focusing on what was going wrong, because I think a lot of us have a sense of what is going wrong, they decided to focus on the churches that are doing well. What are they doing well? And they came up with 6 characteristics. And one of them they call keychain leadership, which pretty much is empowering.
Okay.
So in your view, how do you see, like, what is empowering leadership or keychain leadership?
I think that empowering and keychain leadership, I think it's making people feel comfortable, feel like they have a place where they can be themselves, where they can be transparent. And I think when people feel like certain church is their home, mm-hmm. they will feel empowered to maybe get more involved, be more of a leader. When I moved to a town in South Carolina, because I taught at the church there, I was required to go to the church 2 out of every 4 Sabbaths. Mm-hmm. Attendance was taken, and that was pretty detrimental, as I didn't feel belonging, I wasn't being fed, and I was already in a spiritual institution, the school, 5 days out of the week. So because the church that I was attending at the time, they convened on a non-traditional day, I was able to attend a different church on the other weekend day. And I was able to find more belonging there. I think what is difficult is not just being put in a place of leadership, but once you're put in that place of leadership, the critiquing, the non-welcoming atmosphere that comes along with that. For example, I'm a musician. I've been in many bands over the span of my life. I have toured various parts of the country, and I love worshiping the Lord. It's something that I love. The church I was attending in South Carolina wanted to utilize me for that, and that was great, but they had a problem with how I worshiped, the spirited nature of how I worshiped. And at one point, they asked for me to sit down. They asked for me, at one point, they even put me behind a piano. And yes, they wanted to utilize me for my gifts, but in their own way, they really wanted to put me in a box and have me be what their perception was of what a good millennial should be.
Or what is the kind of music that God accepts? What is the,
Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation as well.
Yes.
Yeah, but not only that, they wanted me to partake, but in a way that they had envisioned, and not in a way that was authentic or genuine to me.
Did they ever give you, let's say, did they ever try to get to know you?
Yes. Yeah, I would say so. But when my wife first started to attend, at the time, like one of the pastor's wife, like couldn't make eye contact, was just staring at her plunging neckline the whole time, or having a problem with the fact that she had earrings on. And then my wife, she didn't want to attend that church anymore, and she stopped. So now I was forced to attend the church 2 out of every 4 Sabbaths. I was going there by myself because why would she want to waste her time in a church that spend their time judging her based off of the things she wore, or even her age, being pestered to have kids, those kinds of things. So, yes, they wanted to get to know us, but they were also really interested in us being sanded down into what their perception of a good Christian was, and not in who we were, or maybe we like who we are. Maybe we like our relationship with God. Maybe we like our perception of who Jesus is, and we don't need a specific culture's perception of Jesus to be imprinted on us.
It's interesting because everything that you're telling me, you're talking about music, clothing, behavior, none of that was actually, if you're telling me that you're breaking like biblical principles.
Right. No.
I could understand.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with biblical principles. I think it has to do with, and this is a totally different topic, but I find, especially as I move to the South, that there can be a confusion between cultural norms and biblical principles, and those being blended in unhealthy ways.
Yes, and that is I think that's the great challenge that we have, because what happens is, and by the way, I wasn't raised as a Christian, I wasn't born in a church, so the things that you're telling me are things that I faced recently. Those were all new to me. I didn't know that those things existed prior to becoming a Christian. But I had a full-on experience very quickly in my Christian walk. And the things that I have lately learned is that unfortunately there is traditions and there are principles. We take everything we put in one bucket, and if you don't behave the way that I think a Christian should behave, you're wrong, you're unholy, and you don't have a walk with God.
Yeah.
The reason why I asked you, did they try to get to know you, it's because a lot of times is, instead of trying to get to know this person, they start judging by the outside, by how they praise, how they dress, how they... Go ahead.
Yeah, no. I agree with you. I think that they did try to get to know me, and in a lot of ways they did. I would say that the church, by and large, the average person walking in would probably consider them a welcoming church. The issue was I do not feel like they were interested in who I was, but who I could be for them.
Was this overcome? I mean, are you in a different situation now?
So it was not overcome at that church.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I wasn't able to feel like I could fully be who I was. I was attending a different church at the time, and felt totally and fully accepted there, but it wasn't affiliated with my profession, and therefore it didn't count.
It didn't work.
So then I was unhappy. I was thinking about leaving my profession as being an educator. I was spoke to by the superintendent about the opportunity to move out of state. And the first thing that I did was I attended the constituent church. And I fell in love with it there. They were interested in who I was, me being me, and it's a multi-generational church, but it doesn't really have anything to do with it. They're totally accepting, and
So you're telling me a completely change.
it was a total change. It was a total change, and
Tell me a little bit more about that community.
yeah, well, a good example of it too is on some days, okay, it's the day for worship, it's the day for church. I wake up and I'm not feeling it. Maybe I don't want to do my hair, maybe I don't want to put on a suit, maybe I don't feel like doing those things. At my church, they are totally accepting of me. I can walk in wearing anything.
And you don't feel like anybody's staring
And
down
no
at you.
one's staring at me. I don't have to wear a tie. I don't have to wear a collar. There have been days where I woke up and I was like, I don't feel like going. I don't feel like doing my hair. And I just was able to say, my church accepts me for who I am. Put on a hat and go to church. And no one's staring at my hat.
At least you're there worshiping God.
They're worshiping God. They're happy to see me. All those roadblocks of formalities are gone. They're not there. I don't have any reasons to not be there.
Do you feel that community, the way that they have treated you, has brought you closer to God?
Absolutely. And I think that they really embody Jesus. He was accepting of everyone, regardless of what their profession was, what their vices were. He was interested in making those connections and fostering love with them. And that's something that my church does excellently.
That's wonderful. I love to hear that.
Thank you.
That's
I love to
good.
hear it too. My wife goes to church with me now, so.
Ah, that's beautiful.
And no one asks about her earrings.
That's beautiful. What do you have to say for another young adult, a young family that are struggling, but they have not found a warm community like you have?
I mean, it's hard.
It is.
It's really hard. And it's a challenging thing because a lot of times people my age, their perceptions of Christianity is based off of the people, not based off of the lives and teaching of Jesus. I have several friends of mine who don't believe, but they can agree with me that as a literary character, Jesus is awesome. Even if you take all of the theology out of it, as a literary character, Jesus is amazing. But the people and how they act detract from that. It's hard.
It's what makes or break for them.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. And so, it's hard. I can't say you have to go to your local church, because if they're not being fed, I wasn't being fed at my local church. I attended one that was outside of that denomination.
As much as they were focusing on what they thought was holy, it wasn't fitting you because they were focusing on behavior.
Yeah, behavior, perception. They wanted for me to fit in a particular box. And so those kind of things, like cultural things, I don't think you can change.
What do you think, and this is my last question,
Yeah.
what do you think we as a church, now I'm putting myself in the shoes of a leader of the church, as a pastor, what can we do to create more communities like the one that you found?
I'd say accept people for who they are. Accept people for who they are.
Bring them to Christ.
Bring them to Christ. I mean, the church is supposed to be a body of believers, right? But I feel like a lot of times a church isn't a body of believers. A church is a building. And these people have been going to this building for a long time. And this is the traditions of this building. And this is how we do things in this building. And
that's the only thing that we believe is holy.
Yes,
right. I get it.
Right. The church that I currently attend, there are lots of kids in this church. And it's the house of the Lord. And they run in the church.
Amen.
And they laugh in the church. And they're not quiet during the church service. And nobody goes and talks to the mothers or the fathers afterwards.
And if that is bothering you, it's okay for you to go to another church.
It is.
It's not that you're less holy or less important. It's just that the kids are that important. You
Absolutely.
know?
I agree. And I would say the same thing on the other hand. Like, if you're going to a church and people are talking to you about how your child is too happy when they're in the house of the Lord, they run too much, they scream too much, they laugh too much, maybe you find a different one. But it's hard and it can be daunting.
I am just happy we have kids in the house of the Lord.
Yeah, I agree.
And young families.
I agree.
Yeah. This was wonderful. I am just so happy to have this opportunity to talk to you.
Thank you, Chris.
The idea, and I'm going around, I'm visiting churches, and I can see everything that you're mentioning to me. It's nothing new, and that's why I wanted to open this space. So I wanted to hear the young adults. And we're getting to the point that we need to understand that not everything that a different generation does, it's bad. It may be different.
Right.
But it's not exactly bad. There are things that need to be changed.
Yeah.
You know? But that's in every generation.
I would agree.
It's not just the younger one that is bad.
Yeah.
But Danny, thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
Thank you, Chris.
And I hope we can do this again.
Absolutely.
At some point.
Sounds great.
And thank you for joining Tea Talk. I invite you to continue stirring up the conversation and embracing the beautiful and the messiness of life. And until next time.